Hey folks, welcome to Food for Action. Let me know if the music is too loud. I like having some music happening now. Got some old school hip hop in the background, so it's kind of cool listening to things when I was young that were going on when I was young. Pretty neat. Doesn't make me feel any younger though, but it definitely is cool to kind of set an old school vibe. But welcome to Food for Action. Again, make sure you send me a message when you check in, when you say hi. If you're not seeing this live, if you're seeing it afterwards, then I want to thank you in advance for taking part and engaging in the conversation. It's a very important mission that I believe that I've been set on to try to help start or initiate the conversation or the desire to have the conversation about racism and systemic racism in America. Obviously, it's felt all over the world as well, as we see through all the different things that are going on in this country these days. But it's very important for people to understand why we're in the middle of this mess, why we still, after many decades, centuries, have been dealing with this same issue still that my grandparents, my father, my mom, my grandparents, great-grandparents, great-grandparents, and greater and greater and greater. So that we're still going through all of these things today, and that there's still a segment of the population who still, for some reason, wants to deny the existence of this, even though it is clearly in front of each and every one of our faces. Also, I think that there's a segment of the population that is obviously outright racist. A segment of white America that is outright racist, and then there's another segment that just chooses to willfully ignore what's happening here, and I think that's in some ways a sadder position that some white folks are taking, is to choose to ignore it, or choose to tell me and other black folk like me that we are supposed to move forward, go past it, forget about the past. And what they don't understand, for some reason, is that there's no way to just move forward and forget about it. It's what makes things what they are. If we don't acknowledge the true past and the true origins of this nation, then it is that much more difficult to overcome the obstacles that have been set in place since the beginning of this nation. So, for people to choose to ignore this or choose to deny it is just it's almost a more absurd, harmful ingredient in this whole, racism and systemic racism scheme. It's just like it's like almost wearing a mask, and so you're trying to paint a picture that it doesn't exist, and how wonderful things are now, and so on. And you're not walking in this skin and living in this skin to know. Even though you see the murders happening, even though you see the element of racism within police departments all over this nation, when you see it in communities and at jobs, corporations, politics, the judicial system, educational system. The inequalities are unfathomable. They're so large. Um, the deficiencies between the white and black and brown communities are uh, it's totally unjust, and the differences they're so large. Um, you even as far as, and I think I posted this recently, but even as far as talking about the disparities when it comes to the funding that goes to schools, because a lot of people try to say, well, there's this million or that million. If you go through most black and brown communities, you will find that the funding is well under where it should be for per capita of people that exist within those communities. Schools are more run down. Technology is way far behind. Access to internet, access to quality, even just the buildings themselves, which make it harder for children to be motivated. That you're already in an environment to begin with in most underserved neighborhoods that are downtrodden and and deteriorating in the first place. And so to add to that, as a child, your one escape is school, and when you go to school, you're stuck in a dilapidated or falling apart building. Plus, you have less technology. Plus, your books are older. Plus, just any learning tools are just way farther outdated. And to top all that off, um, a lot of the funding in every state and county and community in this world, a lot of the funding is done and paid for via taxes. And when you have higher incomes in these other neighborhoods that are not black and brown neighborhoods, that are not underserved and impoverished neighborhoods, um, you're making higher salaries, better jobs, and so because of that, the taxes are a little bit higher. But those taxes go to funding. Some of those taxes go to funding schools, which enables those schools to have better technology, better books, better study tools, better buildings, and so on. Whereas when it comes to a lot of the black and brown inner cities or urban communities, we're dealing with less income, way lower wages, um, uh, unemployment beyond belief, and so the taxes that are coming from those communities don't serve well for what's needed in the schools in those neighborhoods. And there's no money coming from other neighborhoods shipped into these neighborhoods. It's not like they take all the rich neighborhoods taxes and throw them on to the urban or inner city communities. So there's a big disparaging um, um, differenti I never could say that word. Differentiation. There's a big difference with when it comes to the economic stability or instability in inner cities and underserved black and brown neighborhoods. And so all these things need to be addressed, but this is again part of what we call systemic racism, and it's what we have to be willing to have this conversation, which is where I started to have this conversation with white folks, so that they can, if they're like I have received so many messages since I began this 21. This is the 21st episode. 21 episodes ago. Since then, I've received hundreds of messages asking me from different white folks, well, what can we do to help? What can we do to help? And I can tell you this. I can say, well, your posts might help but that's not helpful enough. The most helpful thing that I believe you can do if you're not out there protesting peacefully is to talk to your other white friends, other white family members, other white co-workers, um, and talk to them about these subjects and the disparities that black and brown folk in black and brown neighborhoods, underserved neighborhoods, um, how we're affected, um, what the inequalities are. Talk to them about that. Have right in your face, bold conversations to make those folks understand what you're either understanding or attempting to understand. There's plenty of tools online. There's plenty of books online. Or if you can't go to stores now because of the pandemic, don't know where you live, but you can go online. You can go on Amazon. You can get books times a smillion that can explain, authored by black and brown people, that can explain to you some of these disparities, as well as there's hundreds upon hundreds of live streams like what I'm doing. There's others as well that can explain and communicate these ideas and these concepts with you. So there's no excuse for anyone to not be able to do something to aid our fight against systemic racism and outright racism in the United States of America. So what I didn't do, which I do usually every week, let me read to you the mission statement, and hopefully you're seeing this when you look on the OBIE underscore SBTSBC page for Food for Action. But this is the mission statement, which is: I and we acknowledge and express the racial divide, racism, oppression, exploitation against, and violence and systemic racism against black women, black men, black youth in the United States and all over the world. I and we will proactively help create a path through conversation and action to true United State in America. And so we're working to hopefully bridge a gap, heal hearts and minds and spirits through conversation first, and then action, going out there and fighting racism in all its forms. So that is the mission statement. I got a few things to talk about. Of course, we're going to do the segment before I end today, just like I started doing a few episodes ago. I'm going to be focusing on remembrance of another black life that was taken, that was murdered by the bad element of police. And again, like I said, I appreciate and love all of the honorable police men and women all over the country, those who protect and serve and sacrifice their lives, put their lives on the line every day to actually protect and serve and help communities heal, and help communities grow. But there is an element, admittedly, in almost every police department, there is an element of racism that targets black and brown folk. And that element, we want the police department to step up, all the good police officers. We want you guys to step up and rid your departments of that element. But because it's not happened yet, we all know that since the beginning of time, there has been lynchings and murders by white police officers against an inhumane treatment, abuse against black and brown folk in this country. And so, again, to defeat it, we must acknowledge it, and then we must take actions to let our police officers, let our states and cities know that these things are not acceptable anymore. And so all of the protests and all of the folks who are like in the NBA, sports, other corporations and politicians and so on, who are being bold and stepping up and making it publicly denouncing those actions by that element, the bad element within police departments. That is to be commended, but it also means we have to keep fighting and keep on working. We can't let it slip by the wayside. So at the end of each show, I'm going to bring the attention and remembrance of another black and brown life that was murdered, taken from us by the corrupt racist element that exists within police departments. So that is something that I'm going to do every episode towards the end. So I want to make you aware of that. If you're not looking at this, gotta get some water. If you're not looking at this live and you see it later, or if you're looking at it live and you want to go back and whatever, or copy it, or feel free to. If you want extra information from me, since I do all this studying during the week, in between Wednesday and Sunday episodes, please feel free to reach out to me. My phone number is on every platform that I'm on, so you can get in touch with me through that. Hold on a second. All right, so, but yeah, so it's not impossible to get in touch with me. People are doing it all week. I'm answering messages. I'm answering messages on Facebook and messenger messages and text messages and voicemails if I don't get the phone calls. And so I'm communicating with folks, and hopefully I will always continue to be able to do this this way, because I want to be hands-on. I want it to be a real conversation and not just something that happens Wednesdays and Sundays. So feel free to have the conversation with me at all times. If you have anything that you want to add, contribute, an opinion of any ideas, ideals, any experiences, rather they agree with what I talk about or not, please feel free to reach out to me and let me know those thoughts and those feelings and what's happening, what you're going through, or what you believe you're seeing or experiencing. That's the whole part of the conversation. I don't want people to just watch. I want people to take part. I want people to talk to me, to say hi, and say what's on your mind, say what's in your heart. If you want to speak live, we can make that happen too. But it's very important that you do engage. I don't want to just be on here just talking at people, because that's not what this was intended to do. This is intended to be a conversation. And one of the things that I find sad is that I've invited so many folks who have differing opinions, concepts, and so on about things, and they get into these crazy soliloquies on Facebook stems and whatever, but they refuse to come on here and talk about it. And I wonder how important those principles or beliefs are to them when they can only, throw stones and be bullying and call names and be negative on under a Facebook post. They can't be mature enough or bold enough to speak to me live, and let's do this out loud in public. I mean, if you have a belief that is that strong, whether it's hateful, lovable, or whatever you think it is, you should be. What I believe in, I stand behind, and I'm willing to talk to anybody, anytime, anywhere. If I believe that should be the stance of any adult. I mean, kids do it. If you believe a way, if you believe that something exists in a certain way, if you believe that if what you believe you feel confident it's right, then you should have no qualms talking to me or anybody else live to get, because you'd want to get your point across to as many people as possible. If you have principles, you want to get those principles across to people. You know, you want to spread your word, so I have to kind of deduce at the end of the day that those who don't take me up on the invitations to come on, I have to believe that maybe they're not as confident in those beliefs as they're trying to portray. So, but either any way you slice it, the invitations are always open, and I always make sure that even after that all invitations are open-ended, so you never have to worry about, dang, I didn't talk to him that day. I want to talk to him now, but I can't. No, you can always talk to me. My phone number is always available on Facebook and on Instagram and on the page for Food for Action. So if you need to reach out to me, you can do it through Messenger. You can throw up comments here, and we can talk about whatever your vision or opinion or views or experiences are dealing with racism in America. I see a bunch of people popping in and out. I've been watching that for about 20 minutes now, and I encourage you to please say hi. You know, I'll repeat this. I find it it's really cool in one respect, but I always see like 100, 200, whatever people that have been on during the thing, but I only get to talk to a few of you guys. So please, when you are when you come on, please say hi. If you have a question, you can ask it. If you have a statement, you can say it. So that's what this is all about. Let's all engage. Let's talk about it. Okay, so moving forward, what I want to do first, I wanted to talk about the topic of systemic racism. I've had so many people tell me how systemic racism doesn't exist. I have a bunch of things that I'm going to post this week. But people say systemic racism doesn't exist in America. That's something made up by black people or Black Lives Matters or whatever. That's, people are just being Marxist, and there's all this, garbage. And I guess they're repeating some of those crazy, podcast conspiracy people or whatever. But all that, neither here nor there. They're people that are trying to say that, and I try to define it every week just in my own words, just because I want it to be common tone, common speak that people can understand easily. And but I did get an epiphany this week, and I said, you know what, let me just get the definitions. Let me find the definitions that are similar or the same on any media platform. So I Googled everything that I could as far as when it comes down to the definition of systemic and systematic, so that people can understand the difference. So I'm going to excuse me. Better do this. So first, let me say this: systemic. The definition of systemic, the word, excuse me, is relating to a system, especially as opposed to a particular part, denoting the part of the circulatory system concerned with the transportation of oxygen to and carbon dioxide, from the pulmonary part concerned with the transportation of oxygen from and to carbon dioxide to the lungs. So in medicine, affecting the whole body, or at least multiple organ systems. So in other words, systemic in any form means that it is something that is rooted within the system that affects multiple functions of that system. And so then I went on to get a couple more relative things that you can find in any right, left, middle, whatever you believe in, you'll find these same definitions, so on. So symptomatic is relating to or consisting of a system, methodical in procedure or plan. Systemic is of or relating to or common to a system, fundamental to a predominant social, economic, or political practice. Systematic applies to the approach, and systemic applies to the system itself. So when we speak about doing something in a systematic way, that means that we're kind of brainstorming, coming up with a process that will complete or that we will carry out in order to achieve a thing or a goal. When we're talking about systemic, we are talking about something that infiltrates a body or infiltrates a system or infiltrates a community that infiltrates any organism or any organization or anything that has inner workings. Um, uh, there's a something again that is um, interfering with the um, flow of what's happening. In other words, it's taking something that is whole. It is going into it, and it is taking it and it is smashing it apart. But smashing apart specific systems or specific things within that are usually of a oppressing fashion. So what happens is, as this country, in reference to this country, we there were these quote unquote founders or um, uh, what do they call them? Um, Discoverers, and what they did was they quote unquote discovered America. They put together colonies, and they needed more help. So they began the whole slavery scenario, and they took people and made them property, and then they built a system of government. They built a system of laws and rules and orders, and then the black people, the slaves, they were not part of the decision making processes or we were building all the things. It was the sweat and blood and tears of black and brown bodies that did all the work, but it was white America that were quote unquote the overseers, the masters, and the law and rule makers, and they made all those things to leave within it this across the board in every fashion, in every area of life, which we call systems, in government, education, medical, and farming back then, manufacturing, whatever whatever we're talking about, we the black and brown slaves were not part of any of that side of things. The taking credit for things, the laws, the orders, the amendments and rules, and I mean, in other words, anything that was of substantial meaning to the constitutionality of America. We black and brown people were left out of it, and so because of that, there was a continuous struggle for slaves and black and brown folks to become free, and so there was still no say so. There was still no seats at the table. It was a constant fight, a constant struggle to even take part in voting or in the creating of anything of value for the principles that America was built on. So, so that in turn is something that is transcended into today, which is why we talk about systemic racism, because it is interwoven that throughout all of the building of the systems of government, education, manufacturing, farming, medical, education. I think I already said that. When it comes to anything that has to do with the substantial growth in this country, we're not part of its beginnings. We're not part of its quote unquote principles, even though we did most of the work. And so that is a systemic problem all across America. And it has not been cured yet. It has not been fixed. It has not been addressed, but minutely. And so this is a problem, and it should be a problem to all people created under God who breathe breath. Excuse me for a second. So I wanted to point out those things, and if you didn't get to see it, or if you have friends that need to understand that, then please refer them to this site, or to the page for Food for Action, or refer them to YouTube, where I post all these things until I get a software that will help me do these multi-platform streams. But for now, you can definitely look back at this if anybody is in doubt about what systemic racism is and how it came to be and what it breaks down to mean. I just spelled that out for you, and you have plenty of references to go by, so that you can listen to it and see how your beliefs and how your experiences, how they correlate to the understanding of that. Because that is not something that I made up. That is something from the dictionary's definitions of the words, and how it translates to America as a country, as a government, a governing body, as a, like I said, in every system. So, it's important for people to understand that, because then people will stop trying to deny that it exists in this country. Because you have to be, and I don't like to do insulty things, but literally you have to be blind to not see it, especially when so many people in the heads of corporations, government, and so on admit that it exists. Police departments admit that it exists. That everybody's admitting it now, and so for a small few to still be in denial about that, that's kind of sad, because I'm sure there's children that you are impressing those beliefs on. There are friends, family, co-workers, and that's a sad thing, because what is, you know what I mean? Or like Michelle Obama said, it is what it is, and that's the truth. And so we must be able to acknowledge truthful things, truthful realities, in other words, so that we can understand, address them, and move forward. That is when we're going to be able to move forward. We can't move forward until people understand and acknowledge where things started, where they came from, and why it's caused so much pain and violence and hurt to so many black and brown people all over this nation. Let me real quickly, I wanted to mention something, because a lot of people have been asking me about this. So there was a young boy, Cannon Hinnant, who was murdered. I think I talked about this the other day too. He was murdered by a despicable criminal, Darius Sessoms. He was shot in the head, I believe, by this despicable person, and then within 24 hours he was arrested. He was arraigned. He was processed. He was held without bail, He's not getting out. He is going to be uh, punished to the harshest extent of the law, and I think they are considering death as well, which I believe, and I even posted this, I believe he should be put to death for murdering that young angel of a boy. The boy did not deserve that, and that is just fact. But I get so many messages about um, comparing that murder to police to white police murdering black folks, and I have to really say that there is no correlation between those two things. They're not one and the same. Even the kids' parents, both of them, admitted that it wasn't a racial issue. They've had relationship with that dude, that murderer, for I think almost 8 years. Them living in the same across the street or down this, whatever it was, and so yeah, I think it's across the street, and so they've sat together, they've drank beers together. They did. I don't want to say this wrong, but I believe there are several news outlets, Fox included, that are saying that there is a possibility that they might have even done drugs together, the father and this murderer, Darius Sessoms. So I think it is a horrible, horrible, despicable crime. I love children. I think they are the hope for any future in this country is all young people and the babies, and to take lives of those babies is probably one of the most despicable things. If I could have caught that dude before the police, trust me, I might commit a crime myself, and he might be locked up in my basement getting tortured. And I know that's bad to say, but I just think that anybody who can harm children, babies, I think that is God is definitely he definitely ain't happy. So please excuse me for saying the violent thing, but it's just when you see something like that happen, it's horrible. But again, let me repeat that it has no correlation between the racial murders, by the racist element in the police, not the police, but that racist element, no matter how small, that racist element that murders black folks, many, 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 many hundreds of black folks over the centuries, and even in the past decade, and then up till just a month or two ago. Matter of fact, another one happened this month, and but they're just two totally different things. This wasn't the killing of that young boy, which is so horrible, but it was not a racially motivated thing. And again, you can look on Fox and several other media outlets and find out that the parents even admitted that that was not a racially motivated murder. They were actually quote unquote friendly with this person, with this murderer, and they drank together and shared food and shared conversation and shared drugs over the past 7 or 8 years. All right, so let me make that clear, because I also posted this cartoon that a friend of mine on Facebook, Tommy Childers, he sent me a kind of cartoony thing that people are doing these days about everything that's going on, that talked about how people are trying to compare those two things, and I posted that. But I also posted a huge statement of how horrible I believe that crime was. But please, let's not convolute the issue. One of the problems that we have fighting racism these days, and fighting systemic racism, is the fact that people try to convolute the issues. They try to throw attention away from what actually is, form conspiracies, and then try to make sure that the topic of racism in America isn't isn't invoked as much as it should be, that it isn't addressed as much as it should be, and I hate to say it, but white people will tend to try to blow off those things, to try to. Some people do it innocently, other people do it purposely to bring the attention away from the race problem that we have in America, and that should not be done. Both things can be given the attention that they need and should be given the attention that they need, but one has nothing to do at all in any way, shape, or fashion with the other. They are completely unrelated, and they're not completely because they're both murders. They're all murders, but one was murdered by one set of people. In other words, hundreds of black people were murdered. That's black women, men, and youth that have been murdered by white police officers. And we're talking about that versus this beautiful angel of a boy who got murdered by this drug addict Darius Simmons. And so please let's not mix those two things up, because they both deserve equal time, respect. They deserve equal prayer. I pray for Cannon's family every day, as we all should, and you know, his murderer is going to hopefully get what he deserves. Either he's going to get it on earth in prison, or he's going to get it when he gets to hell. So one of those things is going to serve the justice that is deemed. But it is still sad that we had to lose that life. But remember that, again, it has nothing to do with the hundreds of black and brown people that have been murdered by a certain racist element of the police department for decades and decades. Let me also say again, I believe in the police, and I respect the police. I don't respect the element of the police that does the hateful, harmful, racist things, acts, and murders. And again, I wrote something about that online as well. And I also constructed a letter that is going out to all major cities, metropolitan cities, police departments. Hopefully they'll read it, and hopefully they'll address it, where I talk to them about getting rid of the element of corrupt and racist police. It's just like any other business. That element should be kicked the heck out and punished and whatever. You know, we still have Breonna Taylor's murderers who aren't even arrested. They're just living life, and so you know, these are things that are disgraceful. But it's not the whole police department. It is just an element of police. And just like any other business, as I said, who wants to get rid of bad elements, bad employees, to save their face at least, or to make sure that they're not scarred, their name or their brand is not scarred. I believe that the police should do the same thing. The police should take care of that from within. And anybody in their police department that is racist or that is corrupt, they should get rid of them. They can do that. There's no law that says that they have to keep those people within their departments. So why aren't they addressing that? We hope that they will. I'm sending that letter out to all of the major police departments, so hopefully they will begin to take action against those elements. And let me again say, they can't say that they don't know who they are, because they do. Because in most cases, the bad elements, the corrupt or racist elements in those departments, they've been written up, they've been reported multiple times, and those reports just get swept under the rug. So it is time for police departments to stand up and not just say that they recognize that element exists. It is time that the police departments get up and they actually do something about it, and get rid of that element from their department, so that they can be loved and honored and respected by everyone in the communities. Now, so again, just to reiterate, the horrible murder of Cannon Hinnon, the little boy, the little angel that was murdered. He was murdered by Darius Simmons. That was a horrible crime. He's going to get what he deserves. He's been arrested. He's been arraigned. He's going to get. He's a matter of fact, I found out that he actually said he was going to get his own lawyer now. I don't know how that's happening. Maybe there's somebody looking for the limelight and they're taking on his case. I have no idea. but he said he did not want a public defender, so he's getting this a regular lawyer somehow, but he will face the penalty. He is not getting out on bail. He's remanded until his court, which I believe he will be punished to the full extent of the law, and deservedly so. But it does not have anything to do with Black Lives Mattering or the police brutality and murders against black and brown people that happen in this country. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is I want to dispel a rumor or a little story or thing that's been passed down from time to time, and this actually goes out to everybody. This is something that that everybody should be listening to. This is for all of my black brothers and sisters, and this is for white America. And I'm going to turn down the music for this because this needs to be heard. This is very, very important to a lot of people because it's used as a derogatory term, and I just wanted to straighten this out. So I'm sure that people all over the place, black, white, and other, Hispanic, Asian American, wherever you came from, you've heard this term called Uncle Tom. And you've also probably heard the term Sambo. So what happened over many centuries, I guess, or not centuries, decades, is that the term Uncle Tom ended up taking on a negative connotation. So what would happen is a lot of black folks would call other black folks Uncle Toms if they were like, spewing a lot of, conservative issues or denying racism, because there's always an element within our community of some folks that for whatever their underlying reasons are, they will kind of flip on the script and start talking just almost comparable to racist language, but against black people themselves, which is really a sad thing. But in any event, so what happens is that but black folks will then call those folks Uncle Toms. And hey, Amanda, and that will also happen with some white folks calling certain black folks Uncle Toms. So I wanted to take a moment and explain to you who Uncle Tom actually was, so that you understand that it is not who you probably believe he is. So, where is my... Okay, so... sorry, I gotta scroll because I don't have an assistant. Okay, so the person that was named Uncle Tom, his actual name was Josiah Henson, and he wasn't an Uncle Tom. He actually was born into slavery, and let me read a couple things. So. Let's see. So Mr. Henson was born into slavery, and he witnessed all kind of, obviously horrific things. From an early age, he witnessed the brutality of slavery, notably when his father tried to defend Josiah's mother from an overseer. As punishment, his father endured 100 lashes. And if anybody knows what 100 lashes are, that is those things with the whip. You've probably heard about it with Jesus. If you're not a Christian, you've probably heard about it from other things. But anyways, the point is that he did endure that, and then they cut one of his ears off, and then they sold and then he was sold to a different slave owner. So they tore apart Henson's family, and much brutality. And then he never saw his father again. Um, he let's see. So then he was passed on through several different owners, because a lot of times in slavery, either because their farms weren't doing good, or because they might have wanted to purchase a new crop of slaves, human beings, but slaves. Then when that would happen, they would get rid of or sell off some of their other slaves if they're, don't feel that they'll be as helpful as some of these stronger, more robust slaves, and just craziness. But anyways, you can read about slavery, I'm sure. So what happened was he finally got to another plantation where he worked for someone, and he started kind of earning a little bit of money. He became one of the overseers, and he would take cotton that they would pick, and he would save little portions of the cotton to give to other slaves, so that they could do whatever with it, rather they're making it into something, or rather they're saving it as a bartering tool, to privately raise money, or so many different things. But the point is that he did that. Then finally, he was able to start a little side business, and then he bought his own freedom. And then he started actually working, even with Harriet Tubman, freeing slaves. But he did so much. He formed an institution for black folks. They moved to parts of Canada, and they would and they built a whole little town, of freed slaves or escaped slaves. And he did so much. He wrote a book that you can find online, but so much. So the person, Josiah Henson, who was called Uncle Tom, from a later book, editorial book, that person was literally not an Uncle Tom. He was far from it. He was somebody that was helpful in bringing freedom to other slaves, teaching other slaves. He formed a whole town. He helped to start a whole town. Helped other black folk start businesses in that town. It's just amazing if you read his story. Now, Sambo, on the other hand, that's the guy that people try to call Uncle Tom. Sambo was the guy who was the snitch. Sambo was the guy who was the pansy, was the rat, was the despicable human being. But he was black, and he was a slave, and he was kind of a kiss ass. Excuse my expression. So please look those things up and get those things straight, because when you're calling somebody an Uncle Tom, you're actually giving them a compliment. You're not giving them an insult. An Uncle Tom, if everybody did what Uncle Tom, Josiah Henson, did, the world would have been a better place way long time ago. Because he had a lot of courage in order to do what he did. And I'm not saying that a lot of other slaves at that time didn't attempt to do the same thing, but they weren't able to. And if they would have been able to, then it'd be crazy. But he did a lot for black folk, black and brown life in this country, from being born into slavery. Literally, when you're born and you're a slave, that's just crazy. And he took that and just flipped it around. So that's just remarkable. Remember that, folks. And anybody else who's here, please say hi. I keep on seeing people pop in and out. And Amanda said hi, and I appreciate that. Love you, homie. And but a lot of people say nothing, and I guess it's up to you if you want to just listen. That's fine. But I hope the whole point of this thing is to have a conversation with people. So I definitely am inviting your views and opinions um, and yeah. So oh, by the way, want to thank my Instagram is blowing the heck up, which is really cool. And I want to thank all the folks that are doing that. And one of the things that I try to do just to make sure that I don't have bots following me, which there are some of those, and I'm deleting them as one by one. But majority of people, I'm actually communicating with them. I answer every single message that I get. So when you go there, you're going to find out it's crazy now. And so and it's steadily growing, and it's just awesome. And but I'm very humbled that that this thing that started as me just being sad about the state of our country and more black murders by those white police officers, with more of that happening in my lifetime, is just so it was painful, and so this started from that, and now not only do I get hundreds of people who look at these live streams, but there's thousands of people on my Instagram already, and it's only been 2 months. Or I guess it'll be 3 months next week, I think. And to me, that's just amazing. I don't know how Instagram usually grows because I haven't been doing it that long, but I consider it pretty remarkable. And some of the people that are following me, I've already been on other people's whatever they call those live stream casts on Instagram as a guest. Um, um, and I have if you visit my Instagram page, you'll see I have a lot of, I guess, what you consider prominent or big artists and DJs and actors and singers and stuff that have joined on, and I think it's such a blessing, and I hope that that people will literally start more communication and engaging more in this on this platform, in this vessel to help fight racism in America. Somebody asked me why I say all the time. I'm just not good at this yet. So that's why I say in between stuff, because sometimes I'm trying to figure out how to say things. If you know me well, you know that besides me talking a lot, I have a tendency to say whatever comes out of my mouth, and I don't curse anymore. It's not that I'm going to say bad words, but sometimes I say things so fast that I have to then repeat myself anyways. So I have to pause, and I guess in between phrases helps me to reform the thought properly. So just so you know. Now, before I go, I want to do, as I said, every week, I want to bring attention to anybody who's going to watch these or who is watching now to a black life that was taken away, senselessly murdered by white police officers. And again, I'm not saying that police are bad. I'm not saying that all white police are bad. I love white people. I love my mom's white. Just so you know, my baby's mom's white. Lots of my girlfriends were white, so it's not a white problem. It's a racist problem, and there is a white racist element within the police department, and we want to hold on a second. I forgot to do that. I hope you can hear me better now. Anyways, there is an element, and I want to try to bring attention to some of these senseless murders, so that all the people that think that it was just George Floyd and that's the reason that everybody started protesting, that's not the case. There have been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands of murders, either by senseless racist murders at the hands of white folks or white police. And so I'm I chose to, on this platform, to every show now, at the end of the show, I'm going to focus on another life that was murdered by police. This one, this week, last week I did, shoot, who did I do last week? Well, if you look at the episodes, you'll see. So for the past two episodes, I did two other young black folk. Tonight we're doing Eric Garner, who I'm sure that most of you have heard of already if you've been paying attention to any news outlet. July 17th, 2014, Eric Garner's last words were, "I can't breathe." Oh, by the way, this version of the facts, because this website or Instagram site does a good job of full detail, giving full detail of the stories. So this, if you want to see some of this on Instagram, Stories for Justice is what you'll look up. It's at Stories for Justice. So on July 17th, 2014, Staten Island, New York, Eric Garner's last words were, "I can't breathe," repeated 11 times while lying face down on the sidewalk, pinned down by multiple police officers. According to many bystanders, Garner had just broken up a fight when he caught the eye of officers. However, officers said that they decided to arrest Garner because they had seen him sell single cigarettes from packs, also called Lucy sale, which is, I remember that people used to sell Lucy's, because maybe somebody couldn't afford a whole pack of cigarettes, so, and instead of bumming a cigarette, they would buy a Lucy from somebody, and there would be even little kids that would go and purchase bunches of cigarettes from the corner store, and then they would sell them for a little bit more. But anyways, so two plainclothes police officers, Justin D'Amico and Daniel Pantaleo, approached Garner to make the arrest. A video filmed by a bystander shows Eric arguing with D'Amico while Pantaleo stands by. "I was minding my own business. A fight break out, I stop it, and all of a sudden you're coming for me." This is what Eric Garner said on the video. "I was minding my business, a fight break out, I stop, and y'all, all of a sudden, you're coming for me. The police that's fighting, let them walk away. I'm sorry, the people that's fighting, y'all let them walk away. Are you serious?" So that's what he said. D'Amico appears to inform Garner that he is being arrested for selling the loose cigarettes, which causes Garner to argue, "I didn't sell anything. I did nothing." He continued saying, "Every time you see me, you want to mess with me. I'm tired of it. It stops today. Why would you? Everyone standing here will tell you I did nothing wrong. I did not sell nothing, because every time you see me, you want to harass me. You want to stop me from selling cigarettes. I'm minding my business, officer. I'm minding my business. Please just leave me alone. I told you the last time. Please just leave me alone." Those are the things that he said to the officers, and it is on camera, so it's not just made up. You can Google that or YouTube it. The two officers then go to arrest Garner, which causes him to swat their hands away, saying, "Please don't touch me. Please don't touch me. Don't touch me." Suddenly, Pantaleo puts Garner into a chokehold. Pantaleo is like the huge guy. You'll see it in the video. Despite chokeholds being banned in the NYPD since 1993. So it is 2014. They were banned in 1993. This guy, Pantaleo, decides he's going to do it anyways. More officers rush into the frame to support him with the chokehold. Pantaleo brings Garner down to the ground as Garner is wordless. Officers say, "Okay, stop. He's out. This is all on camera. As four other officers work on handcuffing Garner while he was was stomach down, so he's on the ground on his stomach. Pantaleo let go of his chokehold and instead used his hands to push Garner's head into the ground. During this time, Garner says, "I can't breathe," 11 times. 11 times. It's on the video. After Garner lost consciousness, the police officers did not give him CPR as they waited for the ambulance. And this is on the video, once two EMTs and two paramedics arrived, Garner was not given oxygen. It's on the video. Administered, not given, was not given oxygen. Administered CPR, emergency medical aid, or promptly placed on a stretcher. So he was not given any aid, even by the EMTs that showed up. The medical responders were suspended, but were quickly reinstated. So they suspended him, I guess, for looks, and then they reinstated him. The medical examiner ruled Garner's death a homicide. The autopsy said that his death resulted from compression of the neck, chokehold, compression of chest, and prone positioning during physical restraint by police. Garner's death caused an eruption of protests. It took 5 years for Daniel Pantello to be fired. 5 years. With all the video. No charges have ever been brought against him. None. After all this, that's on film. This is why we are sick and tired. This is why we are screaming at the top of our lungs, and even some other white folks and other ethnicities, Latin and American, Asian, and everybody that are out there protesting. This is why the peaceful protests and marches and things, this is why. This is why we're fed up. This is why I'm on here talking. This is why so many other people are talking on their webcasts and podcasts. This is why so many people are fighting and angry and mad. This is why. Because this is not a single incident. This is not a lone incident. This has happened hundreds of times. I'm reading to you over the next couple months. I'm reading one every Wednesday and a different one every Sunday. And you're going to hear hundreds of these that have happened during your lifetime. During the 2000s. During the last 20 years. Hundreds of these incidents. Anyways, Eric Garner was 44. He was described by his friends as a good neighborhood peacemaker and a generous person. He was a son, brother, husband, and a father of 6 and a grandfather of 3. At the time of his death, his youngest child was only 3 months old. I mean, can you imagine that loss? And you complain that we are in outrage. Hundreds of years this has been going on to a specific group of people, black and brown people. His son was only 3 months old, his youngest son. When he's I mean, I couldn't even imagine it. My Smunchkin is, she's an angel, and she's going to be 25 in a couple months, and I just couldn't. Anyways, when he was in 7th grade, there was a kid in his class who was picked on, and Eric stopped it. Then he brought the kid home for dinner. That was the type of person he was, his mother shared. Garner worked as a culturist at the New York City Department of Parks and Recreations. So that is Eric Garner. You guys keep him and his family in your prayers. Hi, Mandy. I'm sorry. This was what I talk to people about all the time. Yes, my friends say they love my child, but once he is no longer a cute little boy, but a grown black man, will they still love and protect him? That is why gotta keep on having this conversation, Mandy, because that is the difference. That is the different thing that happens. Is that the minute we are growing up, the minute we have mouths that can share opinions, the minute that we are attempting to speak for ourselves and speak out about the educational system, and the minute we're beginning to try to gain seats at the table, then that is when we are met with incredulous resistance, and usually it is from white America. That is, again, systemic racism at its finest. Thank you all for stopping by. If you didn't say hi, please comment later. Please join the conversation later. Talk to your friends, to your neighbors, white people. Do something. Get up. Stop being outraged and doing nothing. Do something. Everybody vote. Register to vote now. Don't forget to, when you get your registration application back in the mail, send it right back out. Make the postal guy wait on you. Fill it out. It takes 60 seconds or less. Fill it out. Give it right back to the guy. You don't need a stamp. It's already self-addressed, stamped envelope. Send it back, and then once you get your vote, your ballot in the mail, go ahead and vote right away. There is early voting in every state, or 34 states in this country. Yours is probably one of them. And I think there are being exceptions made this year because of the pandemic, so probably all 52, excuse me, 52, all 50 states will be able to take part in early voting. So just contact your local polling station. Every city, township has one. They have to, the law. So find out where yours are. You can usually find it out online. There's vote.org, I think. You can punch that up, or just punch up how to register. Just Google how to register to vote, and you'll find out there's many organizations that are helping people vote this year because of the craziness that's going on from that person in the seat now. So let's everybody vote, and let's take a stand against racism. If white America comes together with black and brown America, then we can win this fight. We can't do it alone, and we can't do it just sitting in our chairs. If you have no other choice because you're disabled, then do it from your chair. Do it loudly from your chair. If you're not, get up, go do something. I love you guys. I thank you for tuning in again. I will be back on Sunday. Let me put me in your prayers, because it's been a tough physical week for me with my chronic Lyme disease battle. But God is good, and He brought me through another episode, so this is awesome. What a blessing. And again, I thank you all for engaging and participating in the conversation. Do more, do better. We all can. Hey, thank you, Joe. Appreciate you, man. I love you, brother. That's my big brother. He always tunes in, man, at some point. Love to you, Joe. Give Yvette and Psalm and Sammy. Oh, wait a minute, I can't call him that no more. Well, anyway, and the Incredible Hulk. Give everybody love, man. Okay. Again, people, I love you guys. Keep engaging in the conversation. White America, engage in the conversation with each other. It's so important. It's a vital part of this whole fight. Do that. Keep it all going. I love you guys. See you Wednesday. See you Sunday. Same black time, same black channel. Good night.